Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the HomeTech Podcast. Jason Griffin here. So happy to have you with us. I am joined, as always, by my partner Seth Johnson. Seth, how's it going?
Good man. How are you? We're early tonight.
I'm good.
What's going on?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm down in Austin and down here for the ASEAN conference, which, if you're listening and not familiar, is one of the big buying groups in the world of professional home technology, and should be pretty exciting. This is actually my first time at one of these for as long as I've been in the industry. I've never gotten to attend one of these buying group conferences, and it'll be a quick trip. Only down here for about 48 hours, but already had a really killer cheeseburger. So the trip's off to a good start.
Yeah, Austin. There's no limit on good food there. A cheeseburger though, that's I don't know. Get some fajitas; those are good. And barbecue. You need to find some barbecue. Yeah.
I actually learned a lesson about Texas barbecue today, and incidentally, I'm down here. One of my colleagues, Alex, is a local. He doesn't live here anymore. He used to live here though for about 10 years, and he informed me that about the time I was going out for a late lunch, that a lot of the good barbecue would be gone. Apparently, barbecue is kind of an early thing, more of an like early breakfast thing here, and it's like a breakfast, early lunch kind of thing. So he's like, no, if you're gonna go for a barbecue, you got to be there like right at noon. So anyways, he had a really great recommendation for a local, place with some good beers on tap and some good burgers. And so we went and checked that out and had a great time.
Very cool. Very cool. I think, is that 7th Street? Is that kind of where you are or no?
So that's close to where we're staying. The place we went to for lunch was a little bit out of the way from here. It was more over by where the UT campus is.
Okay, gotcha. Well, no shortage of good food in Austin, Texas. That place is like a little mecca to get to, and definitely
that's what I hear.
Good beer and good food there, so you'll have a good time.
Yeah. So I'm here for the Amalgamating Assembly. That's the name for the ASEAN conference. I'm not making that
up. Wow, that is that's a what, a 10-cent word, man. That's, some people are going to need
the Amalgamating Assembly.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
I'll report back.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right. as soon as everything's fully amalgamated, and
we could pause for a second while people go Google that word. So anyways, let's jump in. We're going to we got to do a little bit of a shorter show this week. A, kind of a slow news week, but B, I'm also admittedly under a little bit of a time crunch here to get some of these ASEAN festivities kicked off. But Seth, we wanted to make sure we connected and got a show out this week. Before we jump in, why don't we give a quick thanks like we always do to our patrons of the show, supporters of the podcast here. If you're interested in learning how you can support our efforts, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support. Once again, that is HomeTech.fm/support. And that's where you can learn a little bit about our Patreon page, which is a way that you can contribute to our efforts here at the HomeTech Podcast for as little as $1 a month. We've got a bunch of people on board doing that. We really, really appreciate it. So thank you again to everybody who has supported the show.
Absolutely, and thanks to the few who caught the tweets and have joined us here in the live show. It's always good to have people there in this chat room. You can actually, if you pay attention to our Twitter, about 15 to 20 minutes before we start, usually on Wednesdays, and usually about 2 hours from now, around 7:30 Eastern time is about when we start. We're a little early tonight, so thanks everyone from coming out. It looks like we have Bruno, the famous Mr. Bruno Napoli from Krika.
Gaffaman.
Yeah, Gaffaman. He's in our chat room, and we have someone else as a guest that's popped in too. So let's see. Someone I can't tell who it is, but guest. Aaron says it's his first time, so we may get a few more people trickling in, but yeah, we try our best to keep the time consistent. Usually Wednesday nights around 7 o'clock Eastern or so, but that does fluctuate a little bit. So, anyways, let's jump in. There are a few news stories that we want to make sure we hit on, but before we do that, Seth, I want to tee this up for you. As you always do, a great job of going out and finding a picture of the week, and this week is no exception. So I'll let you
unveil this one.
This one isn't all that great, but I thought it was cute. From last week when they had the Google event on what was it, October 4th. They had these little cards that they were passing out for the event, and then like for going to check out the new Google Home Mini, I guess is the name of it, little tiny donut-sized device. Well, they actually passed out these business cards with the Google Home Mini donut shop written on it with a little picture of a donut. Strange for marketing, but I thought it was pretty cool because the little device that they did release, they said it's about the same size as a donut, and they really ran with it. So glad to see that. It's just, I thought it was humorous, so I put it in the show.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Showing a little bit of humor, and we did joke about that. They actually, I didn't realize they were going to make that part of their marketing, but they did use that as a size reference when they talked about the Google Home Mini. I think they said smaller than a donut, I think is what they said, so there you have it.
They actually, what was funny about it, it's not so funny, but they actually had some issues with the Google Home Mini over the last couple of weeks. They found out there were some of them that they gave out to the press and people to test with, that when they gave them the Home Minis, turns out they were recording the entire time, like all the entire time that they were testing them. So there was an update patch that went out to them, and I guess they've presumably been upgraded, and that feature or bug has been removed. So now you don't have to worry too much about them recording all the time. But I thought that was interesting. That's kind of been like the super big worry about like all these Amazon Echo devices and Google Home and Apple, HomePod devices, that they'd be recording all the time. And thanks, Google.
Feeding into the fears. No, you're right. It has been a major concern for a lot of people when it comes to these smart speakers that are becoming so popular now, and this is a bit of a PR black eye for sure. This was Artem Rusikovsky, and I'm probably butchering that, but with the Android Police, he was the first one to break this, and he was reviewing one of these units and somehow found out that it was almost constantly recording sounds in his home and transmitting them back to Google. I don't know all of the details of how he found that out or figured that out, but the company has since acknowledged the problem. Like you said, they've issued a software update. To their credit, it does sound like they scrambled and fixed it pretty quickly, but the trade-off here is that it has, their fix, at least for now, has, as I understand it, removed a feature from the Mini. So, all of these units pretty much are, as people know, they have a wake word that you use to initiate whatever command you want to send to them. But a lot of them also have an ability to, physically push a button or touch the surface in order to initiate a voice command. And you would do that instead of the wake word. So in place of that. Well, that was apparently the issue with the Google Home Mini, is that there was some sort of problem where the Mini thought that somebody was pushing on the surface to initiate a voice command.
And
so
makes sense.
It was continually listening. And so basically what they've done for now, as I understand it, is disabled that feature, presumably until they come up with a better fix.
Yeah, I did see that they had that feature on one of the reviews I was watching. I thought that was pretty clever, because you don't get that on the Amazon Echo. I think you get it on the Tap version, but that's the only way you can activate Alexa in that case. So, but having the ability to just kind of walk by and do, I think it's a long press, like you have to press and hold on it for it to wake up and do its thing. Mm-hmm. Having that ability, I thought, was a really smart feature, because sometimes you don't want to have the wake word. You don't want to have to be, yelling that through the air and waking it up.
Yeah, if you're standing right there or something, yeah.
Yeah, so
makes sense.
Hopefully they get this fixed. You were asking like how he noticed that. I bet sound is like, we're doing this right now. Sound and sending out audio data constantly. He probably noticed that, if he was monitoring his internet traffic or whatever, he probably noticed that. And it's something pretty easy to like notice. And, I guarantee you Google and Amazon, they don't want to do this at scale. Like I had a friend that I accidentally mentioned that that Amazon when you use the Echo, you could go back and review the recordings of things you've asked Alexa to do through the app. And they took that to mean that Alexa was listening all the time, freaked out, and like unplugged all of their. and I went over to their house, and I'm like, "Where did your Alexa go?" And they're like, "No, we're not putting that on." And I had to re-explain, like, "No, you don't understand. That would like that." Let's clear this up. They're not listening. They don't want to be listening, because if they were, that would be like so much data on their end and so much bandwidth from all these millions of devices that are out there. It makes no sense for them to do that. And it's all like background noise anyway, and it would still cost them the same amount of money or so much money to do that. So they don't want to do that. They want to only have the little smart wake up word, the captured recording, and then be able to process that and figure out what you're saying. So don't worry about that. If there is ever a device, it'll be like Google. They'll kill a feature to make it turn off, because they do not want that to happen.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's a good point. Well, speaking of Google and these smart speakers, Seth, you threw another story up here that we will include a link to on our show notes, HomeTech.fm/182. I'm not sure how much detail we'll go into on this story right now, but I do think it is worth a read. It's a CE Pro story, and Julie Jacobson, I believe. Yeah, Julie Jacobson wrote it, and sort of analyzing Google's position in this burgeoning smart speaker market. And when they first came out with the Google Home, they were, like everyone, a little behind Amazon in terms. Amazon was the first with Echo, and everybody else has been playing a little bit of catch up. But I think this article does a really good job of dissecting and pointing out a lot of the areas where Google is uniquely positioned to potentially dominate this market, specifically when it comes to the intelligence and the things that it can do with, I think they call it like their knowledge graph or whatever. They've just got more data than anybody out there, and some of the things already that you're starting to see if you really look at what they're doing. And there were some examples in this article of some of the demos that they did. We talked a lot about the hardware in weeks past, but we didn't really dive into that. And I think this article does a really good job of pointing out some of those really interesting things that Google is able to do that I think it's going to be really hard for anybody else to match.
Yeah, this is something I really wish we had time to talk about on the last show, mostly because they really laid out a really good demo on this. Like, I was really impressed with what I saw. First out of the gate, Sundar Pichai came out and talked about what Google's vision is for all of these products, right? And I'm just going to cover some of the couple bullet points that he had on here. He said it has to be conversational and sensory, where you say something or it reacts to the environment and that kind of thing. It has to be ambient, so you can have multiple devices. No matter what device you have, it should react to you specifically. And that's literally like the Bill Gates version of what computers should be, which I thought was hilarious. Like, Bill Gates has been talking about this for, the better part of 3 decades, maybe, where he kind of related it to how old school computer guys talk, where you walk up to any terminal or any computer, you put your password in, your user password, and all your files are there. Like, no matter what computer it was, you just walked up and boom, all of your settings, your desktop, everything is there. And they're trying to do that across a bunch of devices. So across home devices, computer, phones, all that stuff. Contextual, are you away from the home? Are you inside the home? That kind of thing, where it relates to where you are in the world when you issue commands or want to know information. And then, of course, it learns and adapts, which is part of the big AI push of things that we see right now. And like you said, I don't think there's any other company that is better or more well positioned than Google to do this. They have been relentless in their collection of information about their users and people who use their services. And playing catch up with this kind of thing is going to be extremely hard to do, especially for companies like Amazon and Apple, who, Apple notoriously doesn't want information about users leaked out of their products. Like they lock everything down, much to everybody's like dismay. Sometimes features go away that we don't want to see disappear from iPhones just because they're focused on privacy. Amazon doesn't have, they have shopping data, but they don't have like a massive amount of info about you, specifically like maps and that kind of thing, like where you've been, what pictures you've been taking, things of. They're trying to introduce those things, but that's an uphill battle. So that they've completely opened up their platform to be able to have all these other integrations come into it. So, I think, like you were saying, I think Google is going to be the number one at this contextual AI device that you go in and you just tell it it just already knows what you want to do. You walk in the house and it's already setting up the house for you specifically.
Right. And I think that, for some people that's great. That gets them excited. For others, I would say probably a smaller portion, a minority, that is incredibly scary and frightening. And I get that. I personally don't lose sleep over it, but I understand the concerns about where all of this data is going and what it's being used for. But ultimately, whether you like it or not, the broader point I think still stands is that Google is in a really unique position now with the growing popularity of these types of devices, combined with all of the data that they have and can leverage, and the possibilities there are just fascinating. Leads in nicely to another story we wanted to touch on quickly.
Hold on. I just want one more thing out of that. I'm going to put a link to the Google event in the show notes. If you haven't seen the keynote, this keynote, go check it out, especially if you're into home technology. They ran through some of these demos, and I got to give them 2 thumbs up on all of the demos that they ran through, mostly because they had families involved and they had multiple people involved. And they showed what using these devices would be like for multiple people in a home. And you don't get that from very many technology vendors. I mean, we've complained about this in the past, where it seems like these things are all built around having one person living in an apartment in San Francisco. Google has definitely heard that, and they have started to make their products built around actually acknowledging that most people are going to need more than one person to interact with these devices. So 2 thumbs up for Google. Go check out the video. It's definitely worth the watch.
Yeah. Yep. And like I said, it does dovetail nicely into this other story we wanted to at least touch on, is that Amazon's Alexa can now recognize different voices and provide personalized responses. So pulled out a couple of bullet points here, a story from The Verge. This was widely reported that the Echo can now do that. And so, this is something I think, if I'm recalling correctly, Google Home came right out of the gate with this. If not, they had it, shortly after their launch. But that ability to tell, different people in the home and who was speaking to it to a certain extent. One way or another, the Echo has not had that until just this week. So they do now have the ability to, tell different users in the home and who's speaking to it and do different things accordingly. It says today the feature's available for calling and messaging, flash briefing. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Maybe that's the news or something.
That's the only feature I use on my Echo. You can say, hey, Alexa, tell me the news. And it'll go through a couple of like news feeds that you set up. The problem is that my wife wants to know about things that have happened in like Hollywood and that kind of thing. And I want to actually know like what's happening from the BBC and that kind of thing. So like I have I get my BBC and then it goes to People and then it goes back to like Tom Merritt's Tech News Today and then has like some weather and like it's
so
like
now it has a little bit of context now and it can give
exactly.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense. Shopping, of course, they've got. So people are going to have different shopping preferences on Amazon, and the Echo can now tell who's asking for what. And then music with the unlimited family plan says it will be rolling out to additional features in the future. So a good sign, I think, for Echo users that it'll give you that little bit more functionality, make it a little bit more convenient. Again, if you have multiple users in the house, I do think, Seth, you've mentioned that a bunch of times, and I think it's a good observation. A lot of products, just in general, speaking very generally about the smart home, and when you see new products from startups or even from tech giants like Amazon come to market, oftentimes these products can feel like they were designed for a 22-year-old male living in an apartment alone in Silicon Valley, right? Not for the average family, and some of the usability suffers because of that. And so anytime you see improvements like this, I think it's a great sign.
You know why I'm most excited about this, right?
Fill me in.
I won't have to edit out all the Alexa words anymore if everybody goes out and trains their echoes to their own voice. So,
but I love the bell. I love the Alexa bell.
Yeah, it's gonna go away now because everybody's gonna need to go out. I mean, we haven't had to do this for a while for Google, and Siri has had the feature I think longer than anybody. I want to say Siri first, then Google, and now Amazon's gotten it. So that's exciting. I think that's a huge feature. The personalized responses is a great idea, great feature. So I'm excited to get this one. This is probably one of the biggest downfalls that Amazon's had for a long time is the inability to, cancel out a voice coming from a podcast versus someone else's voice, that actually lives in the house. So I'm excited about this one.
Well, Richard Gunther might tune in a little bit more now. Anyways, let's jump here to the next story. We've talked a lot here about Amazon and Google, but just as of last week when we had that huge news week, one of the big stories we talked about was Sonos and their I don't want to say resurfacing, but coming back into the headlines, and there's been some speculation in the months past about what is Sonos going to do. They were really a market leader when they first came out. They were really pioneered a category, but since then, a lot of people have caught up and even arguably surpassed them in terms of just popularity and people going out and buying Echoes and these cheaper devices to play music in the home. Well, don't call it a comeback. Sonos is here, and this is an interesting article from Fast Company that sort of analyzes what is the title here? Sonos' secret weapon in the smart speaker wars, becoming a platform. And it really talks about how Sonos is in a bit of a unique position in the sense that they can go out and partner with some of these different companies and really not necessarily have to compete directly with them per se, but sort of, again, get in that unique position to capitalize just on the overall growing popularity of this category. And so I thought a really interesting article and definitely worth going and spending a few minutes taking a look at.
Yeah, a couple of points in here. By the end of this year, Sonos says it expects to add 50 new developer partners, including many smart home products, to its platform. And in 2018, it'll open things up to all developers. I think this is great. I think personally, I think this should have happened 5 years ago, and they would have been the smart home platform. Unfortunately, they did not want to be an open company. I'm not going to criticize them anymore. Let's see what they can do. It seems like the messaging that's coming from them now is a complete 180 reversal on the stance that they've always had. I can go back to CE Pro and pull articles from Julie Jacobson way back that, why don't you integrate with things? We want to be the only interface that people, talk to. We don't want to have another interface on top of our interface. So like that's been their company mantra for so long. And I'm glad to see that has ended and they are opening up the smart speaker for what it could be. Cause I know, Jason, you and I, we love Sonos. And I have a significant investment in my house of Sonos. My wife actually said, get me some more. We need another speaker. We're going to have this, Halloween party. We're going to need another speaker over here. And I'm like, okay, yeah.
Twist my arm.
Yeah, I mean, it's already ordered, but yeah, whatever. I'll just go get it.
Pre-approved. Pre-approved by the finance committee. Good for you.
Yeah, so I said, well, if I get that, I'm gonna have to get a sub. We're gonna have to.
It's a party. You can't get it and not get the sub.
I know. So some expensive times coming up.
There you go.
I'm just glad that they've taken this 180. I hope it's enough. I hope that they can kind of fend off Google and Apple. Oh, speaking of Sonos, I've been using the integration with Alexa now. So that's actually working fairly well. It's in beta. I think it doesn't do everything you expect it to do, but you can tell Alexa to play something in a specific room that has the Sonos speakers are assigned to. So I can say, Alexa, play such and such music in the family room, and it'll start playing, and it works really well. I was kind of surprised how well it actually worked. There's some things that is missing, and I think that they'll be rolling those out. But what a step forward. Like,
yeah.
I actually can listen to decent music out of decent speakers now. So pretty happy about that. Yeah, pretty good.
No, it's awesome. Yeah, there's a quote in here I wanted to close this little segment out with. Antoine LeBlanc, VP of Software Development at Sonos. A quote from the Fast Company story. We had a very closed experience, frankly, says LeBlanc. We've now moved to a world where people want a lot of different mechanisms for being able to control their Sonos systems. It's all about just fitting into people's lives. I would contend with the "we've now moved to a world" part and say, well, we've been here for a while, and where have you been, Sonos? But at least now they're warming up to that train of thought, and I think. I don't think. I do agree with you, Seth, that I hope it's enough. I like Sonos as a company. Overall, they've had their share of sort of, I would say, PR missteps and a bit of rough times with the home technology professional community. But I think all in all, most people agree that it's a great product and that the the home technology market in general is a better place with Sonos around. And so hopefully they can continue to innovate and push things forward.
Yep, absolutely. I'm excited to see what they can do now that they are. I mean, like I was saying earlier, this seems like a 180 from the direction they were going, and they're making steps to improve the relationship with developers and that kind of thing. So I'm all for it. Seems like a good thing. You know how we are. We like our APIs, man. It's what we need. We need those APIs.
API fiend.
Yes,
that's right. All right, cool. Well, a couple other quick stories here we want to wrap the show up with. Kwikset has a new lockout called the Obsidian, and some interesting facets to this. The smart lock category has really blossomed in recent years, and frankly, I don't often see products that really get me excited or even make me look twice anymore. But this one has some unique features. First of all, I think the design is a departure from what you've seen from a lot of them, and like it or not, I personally kind of like it. I mean, I don't know that it would fit on my house, but if you've got like a very modern home, it definitely looks better than I would say anything else that I've seen out there for that sort of design aesthetic. Pretty simple, square, clean lines, all of that. But I think probably the single most interesting thing to me about this story, Seth, is the decision to completely depart from having any sort of physical lock, physical key, I should say, capabilities. And so that gets into this conversation that you and I have had quite often around the smart home in general and these sort of products. And that is that buyer beware sort of deal where you've got to know that at some point, this thing may fail, or something as simple as the batteries failing might cause you an inconvenience where you can't simply just pull out a key or go to the hidden spot, in the rock around the corner of your yard where you hit a key under and grab your key and get in. You don't have that backup functionality. This is purely a touch screen. One interesting thing that they did do regarding the batteries, and obviously they thought through that, and what if the batteries do die and you can't use a physical key? There are, I guess, some terminals, I think, on the bottom of this lock where you can get a 9-volt battery and I guess just hold it up there, somehow hook it up there, and that'll power it up. But I just envision coming home from a long trip with 2 young kids, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and you've been traveling all day, and you get home and you can't get in the door. Now, granted, like you said, Seth, we were talking about this before the show, and in most residential applications, you're going to have more than one way to enter your home. But again, I think it's an interesting conversation when you start getting away from having any sort of physical way to interact with it other than through the touchscreen, and what are the implications there?
Yeah, I mean, so locks are fairly insecure devices anyway. They're just kind of there to make sure that people are honest. I guess it's one of those things like you can pick a lock, you can use one of those bump keys. Go look up bump key on YouTube and see how bump keys work. Most locks can be unlocked without a key. And, I think just keeping them there as a deterrent is nice. Having the smarts on them, people don't really think about this, but like if you forget to lock your door, like you can lock your door from anywhere, right? You can get on an app that comes with this thing, or get on mine integrates with my alarm company thing. So I can get on the alarm.com and lock the door. or I can check it and make sure that it was locked before I left the house. So I think that's huge. And the key is optional. Like, you can go this way and don't have a key at all, or you can go, I don't know, Jason, if you see the link I put there in the notes, like, Kwikset also makes one of these things that looks just like a deadbolt, and it doesn't have the keypad around it. But it also, I mean, it integrates right with the door hardware that you have. So, I mean, I think that introducing this definitely pushes the product line forward, but they have a full range of these things that match every one of their, every one of their other type products, hardware products. So I don't think like this is like the be all end all, solution for anyone's specific home. Like I don't think that this is going to end up on like every home now, just because they've come out with a keyless lock, like, so.
Oh yeah.
It's only going to be for some people who want this kind of thing. But the advantages to having a smart lock, to me, outweigh the disadvantages of, not having one. Like, there are times where I like got to the highway and just like got a cold sweat and had to turn around and drive all the way home to make sure that I, locked the door. And,
right.
Having a smart lock, you don't have that worry anymore. You just flip up on your phone and check. And if it's not locked, you press a button and it's locked. I mean, that's some great peace of mind for having one of these things that's smart. And, key or no key doesn't really matter to me. I can see, the side door to my house. I guess Kwikset, you can rekey these things, but the side door of my house, I can't say the last time I used the key on it, because that's where I have the smart lock installed, is on the side garage door, and that's how I get in. And I don't need a key. And if I ever got locked out, I just go and push in the code and walk in. So they would work perfect for that situation. And I don't know, the look doesn't match my house, but I can see on a more modern home, or somebody that has that particular handle pull, it would work well for them.
Yeah. I think when you compare it side by side to all of the options that you've had before, and it's definitely a much more modern looking lock. And so I think it will satisfy a certain aesthetic, although most designers are still going to hate it. Let's not lie. But at least it's a step in the right direction. So, anyways, let's touch on this last story here, Seth. The Channels DVR. This is a pretty cool app. Apple TV, I know, has it. I'm not sure if any other platforms have it right now. We have talked about this before. Incidentally, it was back when it was in beta. Well, it is apparently live now, and this is simplest way to explain it is it's an app that you can put on your Apple TV and pair it with an OTA antenna, so you can pick up any of those HD channels that are available over the air in your market, and do a lot of cool things with them through this app. DVR functionality, a whole bunch. That's the core function there. But they've really got a lot of, it's a very well thought out product. I think they've done a lot of cool things with software here to really appeal to the cord cutters out there. So I think it's a pretty neat offering, and it looks like $8 a month, so very reasonable price, and it looks like they're offering first month free, at least for now. So if you're a cord cutter or thinking about becoming one, I would say definitely go take a look at this app. It looks pretty neat.
Yeah, I've got the Channels app. Now the app isn't $8 a month. It's just the DVR functionality that they've added on here. So $8 a month plus some kind of hard drive or computer that is always on inside your house that has their little DVR software running on it. So that you could use a NAS drive as well, like a QNAP or Synology, Linux, Mac, PC. It runs on everything, so you don't have to worry about that. But that portion of it's $8 a month. The app also runs on iOS, so it runs on Apple TV and iPhone, iPad, and that's basically the client side of it. And then you're required to get a like a TV tuner, because it uses like this little silicon dust TV antenna tuner thing that you can get. Let's see what they called, HD Home Run. I think that's the one I have. You get those. They're $100 to $200 on Amazon. Plug it in and turn on the app, and you're done. That's probably the most plug and play solution I have ever come across. And I'm used to setting up TiVos and getting to that 99%. Please wait, we're almost there. Nope, still 99%. So this was like night and day. It was ready to go before I had the TV on and the app launched. I mean, it was literally that fast, and I'm not kidding about that. So glad to see that they have finally come out of beta with their DVR. Looks really cool. You get the guide. You get what I thought was pretty cool. They have this auto like search for the commercials. Like the commercials get indexed out, so you can just click a button and automatically on whatever show you're watching, the commercials get skipped over. I know TiVo got in trouble for that. I think like Replay TV did as well way back in the day. So I wonder if these guys are worried about that or not worried about that. I wonder what's going to happen with that one. But a lot of the other features, they have done really well with the software on this. I'm super happy with the app, so I may try this out one day. I'm not terribly sure I need a DVR. Just kind of depends on, I don't know. I'm probably not going to do it because I don't really need a DVR that bad. Like there's nothing on antenna TV that I really want to watch and make sure I get recorded, you know? So we'll see.
I can tell you my wife watches General Hospital religiously. So there you have it.
Oh boy. I mean, my mom, that's
guilty
my mom's
pleasure.
Yeah. My mom's guilty pleasure.
Her mom both watch it. It's like that's their thing. So, you know, as I'm starting to hopefully carve out some time to actually get serious about figuring out a cord cutting solution for my house, you know, having the ability to do some DVR functionality. Incidentally, I'm looking at the website right now, and Empire just flashed across the screen, which is another one I know my wife watches. We do like to DVR the evening news. We don't get to watch that live, and occasionally we do want to watch that. You know, we can't watch it live with the kids. So there are a handful of shows that we do watch on that would be available over the air, where a solution like this I think would come in really handy and really augment you know, any sort of cord cutting solution for really what's a very reasonable price.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at $150 for the Apple TV. Let's say $150 for the tuner. You need an antenna, HD antenna, so another $20. And then if you have a computer that always runs at the house, you're just looking at the $8 a month. Otherwise, you know, there's a little more, you know, investment in the storage side of things. But other than that, man, I have to say these guys who makes this, we read it earlier. Oh, Fancy Bits. They've done a real good job of putting the software together. I only had one problem with it, and that was when the storm happened. When the internet came up for like 15 minutes, they had accidentally released a software release that had a bug in it. And I was lucky enough to get that particular software downloaded and installed. And then the internet went out. And when I went to watch live TV, I couldn't because their app crashed. And then I got on Twitter, and of course, you know, through the phone, they're saying, "Oh, we're rolling back. We pulled this from the App Store. We're rolling back to the old version. Sorry if anybody got this." And I'm like, "What's the luck?" You know, like, of course it's going to turn on.
Damn hurricanes.
Yep. So, internet came back on. App updated. Works perfectly fine now. So, yeah.
All right.
I 2 thumbs up on this one. It's pretty good.
Cool. Well, I need to get going. I've got an amalgamating assembly I've got to go attend here in Austin. So I'm glad, Seth, that we were able to connect and get a show out this week. And again, want to thank all of our patrons who have supported the show one last time. If you're interested in learning more about that, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support. We really appreciate everybody who's done that. And if you have any suggestions, comments, feedback for us here at the podcast, Twitter is a great way to do that, and that's at HomeTech Podcast on Twitter. We would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Well, Jason, have fun at your amalgamation, and we'll catch back up next week.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Seth.
All right, have a good one.